And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Satellite imagery here showing the next big storm. Center's still down off the chart there, but the front, and well, actually the warm front right through here, spraying a lot of clouds with some rain up into the central eastern Aleutians. Some of that cloudiness spreading into the western Alaska Peninsula now. And then we've got a weakening low tracking northward here, just east of St. Lawrence Island, and a band of moisture coming out of that, extending down across the eastern Alaska range. And a little bit of a break here. Still some cloudiness and showers coming across the Kenai Peninsula. Another weak band right through here of moisture that'll be tracking northeastward as well. And see a weak trailing edge of this cloud feature moving into the panhandle and looping that. You can see that coming up pretty nicely there. And so by Thursday morning, IFR here along the inside waters of the panhandle down into Dixon Entrance. Marginal VFR for the Gulf of Alaska, North Gulf Coast. IFR working northward into western Prince William Sound and Passage Canal. Kodiak Island IFR, band of IFR out here from the Bering Strait southward to the eastern Aleutians, and an extension of that in across Nunivak Island, or just south of Nunivak Island, in across Cape Newenham, Togiak Bay there, into the Kilbrook and Auckland Mountains. IFR along the Brooks Range, or just to the south there, and some IFR for the central and eastern Arctic coast. Afternoon forecast becomes VFR for much of the Arctic coast, maybe some lingering marginal VFR there on the east side, possible marginal VFR hanging in the Brooks Range there, but south of the mountains down to the Alaska Range, VFR, central interior, eastward. IFR now in covering all the Gulf of Alaska, eastern Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, up all the North Gulf Coast into Yakutat, improving here over the southern panhandle, becoming VFR. Out to the west, still some IFR here into the southwest interior a little bit there, and then extending up to the Bering Strait. Another round of IFR coming into the western Aleutians and Bering Sea with a little bit of a break right through here for the Atka Island area. And then for Friday morning, IFR from the west central Aleutians northeastward, right into the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, north through the Bering Strait, and along the eastern Arctic coast. North slope now seeing some IFR, as well as the central eastern Brooks Range, and some areas of IFR here over the western interior and over the Talkeetnas, down into western Copper River Basin. And a little bit of an improvement starting for Friday morning here, southern Cook Inlet, Fognac Island. A lot of IFR, eastern Gulf into the panhandle for the afternoon. That lingers over Prince of Wales Island, as well as IFR toward the eastern border there, and the North Gulf Coast, and possibly the Wrangell Mountains. You can see kind of improvement here. VFR working into the Kenai Peninsula Friday afternoon. Cook Inlet, southern Susitna Valley, and the eastern interior is still looking good, some VFR. Otherwise, the remainder of the inland areas here, or mainland Alaska, looking pretty marginal. And then IFR for the Arctic coast. Out to the west, still a zone of IFR here over the Bering Sea. Next system there, pushing that into the central Aleutians up across the Pribilos with the northern Bering to St. Lawrence Island, VFR. And Fort Passes, both Anatuvik and Adigan, again, marginal VFR for the day Thursday. Lake Clark and Merrill, expect some IFR at some point in the day tomorrow for both passes. Same thing for Rainy. IFR at some point in the day Thursday. And for Windy, marginal VFR. Isabel, marginal VFR, especially southern entrance. And Mentasta, marginal VFR with the lowest conditions on the southern approach, better out the north entrance. And for Tanita, marginal VFR. Portage, IFR. And Chilkoot and White, look IFR at this point. And for the freezing levels, about 6,000 to 8,000 feet here across much of interior Alaska. A little cooler out over the northern Bering Sea. 8,000 to 10,000 feet there across Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island area. And out to the west, kind of a cool air mass out here over the southern Bering and Aleutians, down to 4,000 feet there. Icing, all that moisture coming in with that system approaching the southwest coast, and look for some areas of considerable moderate rime icing, Prince William Sound. Up here, northern Sitna Valley along the central Alaska range, maybe over the southwest. Otherwise, quite a widespread area of isolated moderate rime icing possible here that'll extend into Elfin Cove, North Gulf Coast areas, which should stay south of the Brooks Range. And for the jet stream, we've got a trough here, one upper level low at 33,000 feet along the Yukon Delta coast, another one there south of the Aleutians. So strong southwest jet here, up to 175 knots there, coming right into Kodiak Island and then diminishing as it gets up into the southeast interior. 9,000 feet, 60 to 80 knot winds here, coming right up toward Kodiak and into southern Alaska. Lighter and northerly out here to the west. 40 knot winds right up to the mid and upper Yukon River Valley here out of the southwest. Also 9,000 foot westerlies at about 40 knots there over the northern panhandle. 3,000 foot winds, 50 knots out of the southeast there for the North Gulf Coast, actually right over Prince William Sound. And then that rapidly diminishes as you move inland. 65 knots southwest winds here just south of the Alaska Peninsula. Pretty strong here. South 40 for the Kuskokwim Delta, southern Kuskokwim Valley. Northerlies 40 knots on the back side of that low. Turbulence-wise, considerable moderate turbulence expected here. Nunivak Island, Pribilofs, eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, into Kodiak, across the North Gulf Coast, Copper River Basin, as well as south central Alaska. And smooth up to the north, smooth for the Panhandle. Light to isolated moderate turbulence out here from Shimia to Amchitka Island.